all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
And welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. It's going to be a fun-filled show today, folks. Don't worry, it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about some things that are going on in the Razorback sports landscape, get to some recruiting news, some new additions made to the Razorbacks. Also talk about the top 25 toughest places to play, and maybe even get into the question, the little fun thing that we've been doing here on this show of hypotheticals. And it comes to certain moments in sports and in time and in history. But we'll get into all that here in just a little bit. But the baseball season ended for Arkansas a few weeks ago. And the postseason now has officially ended, where the Tennessee Volunteers, Tony Vitello, officially won the College World Series title. They are one of the new additions to the College World Series title spectrum. Not many teams have done it. But they won their first, and it happened to be under Tony V. They beat Texas A&M. The celebration was on. You had Peyton Manning and Rick Barnes and everybody there in attendance for that moment and for that game. And it is the very first College World Series title that Tennessee has ever won. And because of that, it's come to my attention that now there have been 11 SEC teams to win a College World Series title, which means there's 5 that have not. And yes, I'm including Oklahoma and Texas. Arkansas is not one of them, but Tennessee is, Ole Miss is, Mississippi State is, Florida is, Vanderbilt is, South Carolina is, LSU is, Texas is, all of that. You know, it's tough, folks. I know it's tough. And I know it's something that a lot of you probably didn't even watch the game last night. Probably didn't even pay attention to it. Probably got off social media. And I understand it. I respect it. I have no problem with it. I don't blame you for that at all. Because to be honest, it's a really tough pill to swallow if you're a Razorback fan. Because you see what's been going on in the college baseball landscape, and you feel like you've been left out. You don't understand why. You don't understand what you did to anybody to be left out of the fun. That's just the champagne room of a College World Series title. But you feel that way. And to see another team from this conference, and especially a team like Tennessee, who just realized they had a baseball program about 5 minutes ago, it hurts, and it hurts worse. And it's unfortunate, too, because yesterday when I was on Twitter and I was having some fun with people. I was like, I can't wait, because now it's going to be great when Arkansas hires a national championship College World Series winning coach when Dave Van Horn retires. Some people took that as some sort of insult to Dave Van Horn, and it wasn't. It's just kind of going on brand of the things I've been saying, how I believe that Tony V is going to be the next head coach at Arkansas. Had to keep the brand going. But it was amazing to me how many of the strays that Dave Van Horn took last night on social media. It was almost like Arkansas lost the game. Because people were coming out and saying, Arkansas is not a serious baseball program. Dave Van Horn chokes. He's a choke artist. He's not any good. We should fire him. Get Tony V right now. Blah, blah, blah. All of that, which I thought was a little bit unfair. I thought it was a little bit unfair. Because there is so much about baseball that is so difficult in postseason play. Like, we all know that. It's a difficult thing to go through. It's a difficult thing to navigate through. And Tennessee, give credit where credit is due. They're the first team to be the number 1 overall seed to win the College World Series since '99 Miami. And they were also the team that had the best winning percentage to ever win the College World Series title. So they handled business. They were picked by a lot of people. They looked like they were going to be the team going into the College World Series or even into postseason play. And they answered the call and got it done. I mean, it was tough at times. You know, you think back to just how, like, if you need an example of this, Tennessee was basically dead to rights. They were dead in the water in game 1 of the College World Series against Florida State. Florida State choked. straight up choked. And it makes you wonder, like, if Tennessee loses that game, like they were like a check swing away from losing it, how that changes everything. Razorback fans, you can probably relate how different things would have been if you just would have caught a foul ball. It's baseball. It's crazy. But seeing all the stuff that was thrown at Dave Van Horn last night, as I said, it was unfair, in my opinion. Because it'd be one thing if Razorback baseball was a joke. It'd be one thing if you were a team that wasn't even making it into postseason or barely making it into postseason and then getting beat, and your team wasn't fun to watch, or your team wasn't having any like good players. Like, it'd be one thing for that. But then to know like the success you have in the regular season and have had in the regular season, for it to not translate into postseason play is what adds into the frustration. And when you couple that with so many other factors, that's really where the nauseating feeling that Razorback baseball fans have come from. Because if it wasn't, like, we're going to go through some of these factors, but if it wasn't for these things, I think Razorback fans would overall feel pretty differently about the current state of Razorback baseball, maybe about the current state of Dave Van Horn and everybody involved. But when you go, like, you think back to the past, we'll say since the pandemic. Since the pandemic ended, or since the pandemic happened, and that season came to an end early, Arkansas has been pretty great. Pretty great. They've won multiple 20-win seasons in the SEC. One year they were the number 1 overall seed. Another year they were the 3 seed. Another year they were the 5 seed. They won the SEC. They won the SEC West multiple times. They won the SEC tournament during that stretch. They had a Golden Spikes Award winner. They had the Pitcher of the Year, multiple All-Americans. Like, they have and have been, when it comes to those factors, as good and as consistent of a program as there ever has been. And there ever is right now. Like, that's a fact. But the problem is that when you look back since 2021, the best years Arkansas had in their regular seasons, the best players and performances, single season performances they've ever had, are the ones that ended early in disappointment. 2021, you went to the Supers and lost to NC State at home. You won 23 SEC games that year. You were the number 1 overall seed. You did not lose a single SEC series. Only one of 2 teams in the history of college baseball in the SEC has ever done that, and you were one of them. You had so much, but it was a little bit over the top because you just had one elite player that was covering up a lot of the problems that may have been there. But you had so much going for you. You really did. And it came to an end in the Supers against NC State. To be honest, the regionals were even a little bit of a struggle. You made it through it, but you lost NC State. And then a couple years later, you're the number 3 seed. 3 overall seed. Like, you had so many injuries. It was insane you were able to do what you did. You had a share of the SEC title. You won the SEC West. You lost like 3 of your 4 best pitchers. You lost half of the infield, like, most of the time, and then the outfield most of the time. Like, you were just dealing with so much, and you're still able to find a way to win 20 SEC games and be able to be the number 3 overall seed. And you lost in the regionals at home to TCU, who just blitzkrieged you. TCU didn't win the title that year. Went to the World Series. But they just smoked you. And it ended in disappointment. But at least with that, hey, injuries, man. It finally caught up. The injuries finally caught up. You just ran into a buzzsaw that was TCU. It just felt that way. And then same thing felt with 2021. Looking back on it, it's like, it was great and all, but you kind of tell that there was just some fool's gold in there with some things that Kevin Kopps was able to cover up a lot. And you also ran into an NC State team that was nobody was hotter in college baseball than NC State. Like facts. So you could almost justify it. It wasn't right. Didn't feel good to do so, but you can almost justify it. But this past year, when you were the fifth overall seed, you won 20 SEC games. There was no justification. There was no pointing to like, oh, well, it's this, or oh, you just ran into a hot team. Oh, you just got bad calls. You like whatever. No, there was no justification for it. You had a great draw, or at least as good of a draw as you could ever get. You had a team from the Big 12 that some people consider to be underranked, and that's why they put them in your regional. But Kansas State was not a good baseball team. They were good enough to be in the postseason, but they were not a team that should have beaten Arkansas twice in their home stadium. But they did. And then you think back, and then you looked at the rest of the postseason, and you're just like, where did it go wrong? How did it go so wrong? We had the pitcher of the year in Hagen Smith. We had some really good depth there at the pitching position. I mean, was it just simply as the hitting? Was it that it? Was it defense? Was it culture? Was it fatigue? Because I don't care what anybody says, folks. The hitting was the problem. The offense was the problem. We know that. But it's not just as simple as being like, just hit better. No, there has to be, there was a lot more to it than that. A lot more stuff that needed to be changed and all of that. So it just continued to add up. And to have it at this point in time right now where you're looking at it to where basically your entire stretch here, the 4-year stretch you've had since the pandemic, you've made the College World Series once, and it was the year that you didn't even become a top 16 seed. It was the year you limped into postseason play. You went 0-2 in the SEC tournament. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you lost your final 3 SEC series of the season. And that was the team that ended up making it to the World Series. It seems so backwards. It doesn't make any sense. Even though we try to make sense out of it, it doesn't make any sense. And there were other factors too. I'm going to tell you about those factors here a little bit more in just a second. But first, I got to tell you about our folks over at Alumni Hall. Folks, I know that we're talking about some stuff that may make you sad, but what make you happy is getting some new stuff. They got new polos over there at Alumni Hall, fancy type of stuff, and they just got them in stock, so you got to be able to check it out. It's hot out there. Trust me, it's hot. It's hot in here, and then I'm in air conditioning, but it is hot out there, and you're going to be out there on the golf course. I was there yesterday, and my goodness, I almost died. So don't be stupid like me and try to go out there and play 18 holes in heat that you can't handle. But when you do it, it makes it a little bit easier when you have the right apparel, when you have the right golf shirts, when you have the high-end things that's going to keep you as cool as possible. And Alumni Hall has them in stock, and they have those Razorback logos on them. So cheer on your Razorbacks. Feel good. You may not be able to feel good about the sports on the field or on the court right now, but you can feel good about the clothes you wear with that Razorback logo on it. So check them out today. It's Alumni Hall right there on North College Avenue. Check them out for yourself. You'll see all the great stuff that they have to offer. You can also go in there and see the different things that they have, not just for men, but for women, but for children, for the pets. They have decorations too, and they'll get you all squared away and taken care of. So just head over there to Alumni Hall, or you can go to the website at nattystatesports.com/Alumni Hall. That's nattystatesports.com/Alumni Hall. Go over there, and you can see all the stuff they have in the catalog and have it delivered straight to your door. So check it out with Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorbacks shopping destination. Okay, so continuing to talk about some of the factors of why this is built and why fans feel the way that they do is obviously we talked about the Razorback side of things. You have not lived up to the expectations you had after the regular season was so successful. And then the 1 year that you did not have success in the regular season was the year you actually ended up going to the World Series. I guess finishing third, technically. If you would have beaten Ole Miss, I still believe they would have been World Series champions. Didn't happen. But then you throw in other factors. That's what makes it exponentially worse for Razorback fans in dealing with this. During the stretch that we just discussed, we just talked about, the great regular seasons that Arkansas had, even the one that they didn't have. In that same stretch, you've seen teams in the conference win their very first College World Series title. Programs that you as a Razorback fan have felt like you've been superior than, better than. not only in overall general facilities or, recruiting or, support, whatever you want to put into it, but also in winning. Up until that point, you felt like you were a better program. But then once 2021 happened, and you lost that in the Supers, you had to go and you had to watch Mississippi State win that College World Series title. You just had to watch them win it. Team that never won it before. Team that you swept that same season. They walked in there and they won a College World Series title for the first time ever. That sucked. You were the number one overall seed. You had the most wins. You had 50 wins. SEC regular season champions. 10 SEC straight series wins. You won the SEC tournament. And you went home. Or I should say you stayed home after you ended up losing to NC State. But Mississippi State, those fellas out of Starkville, won a College World Series title. That hurt. That hurt. Then the next year, you don't do so well in the regular season in 2022. You struggle. But you get hot at the right time. Still believe that Stillwater Regional that year was one of the most exciting, but also on edge of your seat, intense, insane regionals that ever has existed in college baseball. It was craziness. But you won it. You traveled to Chapel Hill. I think everybody kind of felt like it was good about going to Chapel Hill and winning that one. Like the matchup. But you were down in the bottom of the ninth inning. And you walked it off. You're down by one run. You scored the tying run, and then Brady Slavens walked it off to send you to Omaha. You feel like, man, this is being really put together. And then you did some things in Omaha, but then you face Ole Miss. An Ole Miss baseball team that has not won a title before. This is only their second College World Series in ever. And you're facing them. They didn't even belong in the NCAA tournament. They didn't even belong in the postseason. But a lot of people felt like they shouldn't have been there because they were so bad during the regular season. But they snuck in and they got hot. And you faced them and they beat you. You beat them once, but they beat you to send you home to go to the finals. And they beat Oklahoma to win their very first College World Series title. Ole Miss. Program that was a joke because they were more about their TikToks and blonde hair, doing their dance moves, talking trash, never very serious. Program that, for all the talk that they did, never really went to the World Series. But then you had to watch them not only beat you to win the World Series, but to do it in a fashion that made you sick to your stomach because you're like, they shouldn't have even been there. But they won it, and there was the first ever. So you got to see Mississippi State and Ole Miss back-to-back years, the two schools in Mississippi, the two schools that you felt you were better than and superior than, win College World Series title before you. Well, 2023 comes around. And we talked about it. There was a lot of injuries and everything like that. But you were number 3 seed. Highly regarded. Highly ranked. A gritty team that just found ways to win. Don't know how. Wasn't always pretty. But just found ways to win. And you felt like that, in that particular case, that's the type of team that would have what it takes to make it to Omaha, is that gritty, finding ways to win type of team. You felt like that. Well, it finally came to be an end against TCU and Fayetteville, as we know, in the regionals. So what you got to see is you got to see LSU. They've won before. You got to see LSU and Paul Skeens go to the College World Series. Jay Johnson only been there a few years. You were this close to getting Paul Skeens yourself. And you saw them go on. And Wes Johnson, who left to go to the pros and now went back to LSU, a coach that was your pitching coach for a few years and was really successful. Got to see them win it. Wasn't as hurtful, but still sucked. because you felt like you had the pieces, especially since you beat them. You beat Paul Skeens twice in the regular season and in postseason in the SEC tournament. Still lost. And we all know what happened this year, this past season with Tennessee. You were the 5 seed, and you didn't even make it. You went 1-2. Your postseason came to an end about as quickly as it started. And you see Tennessee win a College World Series title for their first time ever. Again, a program that just figured out they had a baseball program about 5 seconds ago. And then they do it with Tony Vitello, who used to be an assistant coach here, who we'll play a clip in a second, loves Arkansas. And they win their first title. So where does that all get directed if you're a Razorback fan? It's not just the fact that you haven't been the success in postseason that you feel like you should have been over the past few years. It's the fact that all these other teams in the conference that you feel like you're superior than, or if they have some sort of connection of a coach you used to have, they're the ones winning the title, not you. You're the program that has literally been promoting and supporting baseball and Dave Van Horn for 20 years. The stadium has grown substantially. You are a place of college baseball that is very few, that has grown the sport more so than so many other schools. You've produced all the pros. You've done all of these things. Everything right. And you have everything in your entire trophy case except that one thing. And programs that don't have that haven't had that, they've won it. And it just pisses you off. It does. You've paid your dues. You've done everything you're supposed to do as a fan. And you've had success to cheer for. But the fact that you haven't done that one thing, and other programs that you feel so much more superior than have, it's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough thing to handle. It's a tough thing to accept. I don't know what all is going to happen next season. I don't know who's going to win it. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know. But man, it has made it really, really tough if you're a Razorback baseball fan to just be happy and optimistic and all of that. Fair or not, if it's fair or not. But it does make it difficult when not only have you fallen short in postseason yourself, but other people are doing it instead. That's what hurts. It would suck no matter what. But if over the past 3 to 4 years, if it was UCLA, Texas, Clemson, Florida State, or even throwing in if it was Florida, if it was Vanderbilt, if it was, pick a team that have won titles before, it wouldn't be as hurtful. But to see you struggle in postseason the way you have, and couple it with the fact that these programs that you are better than have done it, doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense. I hate it for you, Razorback fans. I really do. And who knows? Maybe Arkansas will win one. Maybe next year. Who knows? But it is tough to really not feel like 2018 was it. That was your chance. There's your one shot at it. The further the years go by and the more you see other programs winning it, the more you just start to think that that was it. It's your one chance. But I'm optimistic. I'm always going to be optimistic. Anything can happen, right? Arkansas can punch through, right? Sure they can. But I'm telling you right now, if Texas A&M wins the title next year, or if Georgia wins the title next year, folks. I don't know what I'm going to do. There's only so much abuse I can take. So much terribleness I can take of having to deal with these other fan bases that don't even care about baseball. Man, is this how Cub fans feel? Or did feel, at least, until they won it? Certainly gives the vibes of it. They're all really annoying, all those fan bases. You know what else is annoying? Pests, termites, wasps, spiders, all those things. The things that, come into our home and we don't want them there and it ends up being really annoying. Yeah, they're really annoying. So get rid of them. Can't get rid of the Tennessee fans and the A&M fans and all those people, but you can get rid of pests with Hopper Termite and Pest Control because they have a solution to all of your needs when it comes to getting rid of those types of misfits and bugs and all that to not only protect your health, your family's health, but your home in its entirety, as well as your business, because they do residential and business to be able to get rid of them and be rid of them for a very, very long time. And if you are in the need of this, if it's that time of year, everything's hot outside, so things are wanting to get cool inside of your home, don't hesitate anymore. Don't wait another second. Call the fine folks over at Hopper Termite and Pest at 479-750-4070. That's 479-750-4070. You can also visit their website at callhopper.com for more details. But here's the thing. When you are going to go with Hopper and you're going to do that service and they're going to get rid of all those pests for you, be sure to mention Natty. Natty State Sports. Mention us. Because when you do that, you get $50 off your very first service. It's right, $50. Free. Right there. Done. You only get that if you mention Natty. So call them, yeah. Right now. Well, wait till the show's over. But call them. Get rid of those pests. Get them out of your house. Get them out immediately with Hopper, Termite, and Pest. Okay, I want to play this clip. Speaking of baseball and Tony V and everything, I wanted to play this because this is him talking about after the championship last night in the College World Series title that they won. Oh, man, he mentions Arkansas and Dave Van Horn.
I did it as an assistant at Arkansas, and because Coach Van Horn gave me that opportunity and also helped lead me along the way, I mean, the one thing I'd like to say, and I think some of them appreciate I hustled around down there, and most of them hate me, which is fine. But what they need to realize is their program definitely had a hand in what happened tonight. There's no question about that. So I'm thankful for my personal opportunity. But guys like Xander and Dylan are benefactors of who I think is the best coach in the country. And Coach Van Horn is who I'm talking about. But
Man. You know, when I hear that, I'm happy. And I think it's cool. And it's makes you feel good. Because, you want that. You want to be able to have that type of respect. And I love it that Dave Van Horn respects. And it's also genuine, too. Like, I've played clips before. Like, Tony V cannot stop talking about how great Arkansas is and how great Dave Van Horn is. And I'm sorry. You can take it however you want. But there are very few coaches that I've seen and heard from that are successful that mention a coach more than what Tony V does with Dave Van Horn. Like, nobody does that. It's not to the extent. Because I've went back and I looked. There have been 3 times this season, and that's just what I found. 3 times this season that Tony Vitello has referenced Dave Van Horn, Arkansas. He's the greatest coach, a great program. 3 times this year. And Arkansas and Tennessee didn't even play. They didn't even play each other. Would have made sense if they were playing each other, but they didn't. There's a lot of love and respect there, and it's very obvious. So when I heard that, and again, it just sucks because of the whole thing of Tennessee winning, because Tennessee doesn't deserve it. But I made the joke once again on social media about how I believe, man, it's going to be great when Tony Vitello is the next head coach at Arkansas. Of course, Tennessee fans went nuts. Even Arkansas fans were mad at me because I guess, I don't know, maybe they didn't get my sense of humor and all because I was just having fun. But here's the thing. It's eerie to see how much Tony Vitello talks about Arkansas and Dave Van Horn, to not think that there's something to it. Like, he loves Dave Van Horn. He respects Dave Van Horn. Dave Van Horn loves him too. Like, they're very close. There's a lot of love and appreciation there. So much so that Tony Vitello talks about Arkansas and talks about Dave Van Horn all the time. And saying right there that this does not happen at Tennessee without his time and his learning and his appreciation and respect for Dave Van Horn. So I'm sorry, I can't help but still kind of go back to it all. I'm like, man, Tony V winning a championship at Tennessee showed that, yeah, he can win a championship anywhere. But it's not Tennessee. It's Tony V. So let's make sure that we get that right. A lot of programs out there in sports can make coaches great, or at least put coaches in success. Tony V, did things at Tennessee that they would not have even dreamed of. He did it himself in his recruiting and his tactics and his appreciation and the way he built it. And he did it by learning from Dave Van Horn. But Tennessee was like a no-name program that he just took over and made it into it. Because I feel like if Tony V left after this year to go to another job, Tennessee would probably go back into pretty irrelevant. Because he made it. He's the one who made him relevant. So he was going to be a great coach no matter where he went. It's funny that Missouri turned him down. You know he's a Missouri alum. Interviewed for the job, and Missouri's like, we don't like you enough. We're not going to hire you. It's like, oh, okay. Good call, Missouri. But that's just how he's operated and how he views Arkansas. So that's why I keep going back to the point and maybe going back to the well that nobody wants to deal with and nobody wants to hear from. But that's why I keep going back to him and saying that I believe it's still possible that Tony Vitello could be and will be the next head coach at Arkansas. That's just me. I still feel confident in that. Things always change, though. I mean, for crying out loud, Texas's job is still open. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas came after Tony V and he bounced and went to Texas. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But the point is that if it's in a situation to where he's still at Tennessee and Dave Van Horn retires, and who knows when that'll be, could be after this season, could be 3-5 years from now, I don't know. But say if all that happens, all goes down that way. Seeing and hearing all the things that Tony V says about Van Horn, knowing the amount of players, former players of Tony Vitello here at Arkansas that love the man more than anything and would do anything for him, I'd be hard-pressed to think that if Dave Van Horn picked up the phone and called up Tony V and said, hey, coach, wanted to let you know that on this date, whatever, I'm retiring, calling it an end. I want you to be the next head coach here at Arkansas. I want you to come over here and be the next head coach. Do you think Tony V is going to say no to him? Honestly. The thing is going to be like, well, Coach Van Horn, I know I've talked about you ad nauseum. I know I've talked about how much I appreciate you and love you and respect you. And you're basically the main reason, if not the biggest reason why I had any sort of success as a college baseball coach. And I owe you all of that to make me into who I am today and everything. And I love my time at Arkansas and all of that. But I'm going to have to say no. I don't see that happening. I don't see Tony V saying no to Dave Van Horn. If Dave Van Horn calls him up and says, I want you to be the next head coach at Arkansas. Now, does Dave Van Horn do that? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to put himself in that position. Maybe he don't want to put Tony in that position. But I don't see any way, any reason why, given the circumstances of how much he likes him, that Tony V doesn't go, Coach, hate to hear you're retiring. You know what you've meant to me. I'll be there for the ceremony. And I'll take the job the next day. I wouldn't be surprised. Some of you might. Some of you. But I wouldn't be surprised. Kind of hope that happens just to see the absolute chaos that ensues from it, especially with Tennessee fans. Like, what if that happened like next season? Like, what if Arkansas won a title? Dave Van Horn, he calls it a season, and then Tony V comes over. It's almost too funny to think about. Be nice, though. Would be nice. But it's also nice as winning money, right? Especially when it comes to your sports. Well, it's a little slow right now in the sports world, but you still got Major League Baseball. And if you want to bet on it, you can bet on it. You can do it with BroThrow.com/Natty because there's always going to be different spreads, different over-unders, different money lines that you can choose from when it comes to Major League Baseball. But there's only one place that you can go to where you can bet them straight up and go up against a real person and putting down the money and putting down the bet. And then on top of that, being able to save a ton of money in the juice, to save a ton of money where it's not the house savings of BroThrow that they're just bringing in all this extra dough and they're, killing you with that. No, you save a ton. And they even have a little bit of a meter there that you can see on BroThrow.com/Natty that every time you bet and when you continue to bet, it'll show you exactly how much money you've saved in the juice. So forget about anything else. Do it with BroThrow.com/Natty. It's BroThrow.com/Natty. If you want to check it out, you can get in right now with the Guardians plus 1.5 or Orioles at minus 1.5. Joe's got it at $25. Throw it down for $25 too. Make it happen. Make some money. Have some fun with it. And do it the most fun way. Do it with BroThrow.com/Natty.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, we're going to continue on with the John Nabors Show and a little interesting topic dealing with the college football video game here in just a second. But folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at L Jennings Law. We know that in sports, preparation is key, but it's also about the process. All about the process on and off the field. And that's where L Jennings Law steps in. With a proven success and process that covers every detail, they ensure that no aspect of your estate planning is overlooked. From drafting your last will and setting up a family trust, their team makes sure everything is in place. So trust the L Jennings Law process and estate plan that protects your loved ones and gives you a peace of mind. And you can contact them today at 501-501-WILL. That's 501-501-9455. You can also visit their website at ljenningslaw.com. But they are the best when it comes to everything specializing in trust, business, planning, as well as elder law. Give them a call today and check out their website at 501-501-9455, as well as ljenningslaw.com. Okay, this is kind of funny to me because people were debating about it, and I knew this was going to happen. But people are excited about the college football video game coming out by EA Sports. I have made it very clear and have mentioned it very many times that I am optimistic, but knowing how EA Sports has screwed up so much of the football games and of Madden and everything, I'm trying not to get my hopes up because it seems like every day nowadays, the things you get excited about most in media, whether it's movies or shows or video games, usually end up in disappointment. Is that a bad way to say it? Maybe so. But either way, they're going to be coming out with it in July, and they've been continuing to build some of the things to go along with it to get people hyped and everything. Well, one of the things that they're bringing back, which I'm actually glad that they're bringing back because it was really fun, is about the top 25 toughest places to play. And when you have a tough place to play, it basically makes it to where if you're a visiting team in that stadium, there's stuff that complicates things. Your quarterback, depending on how experienced he is and how good he is, he may not be able to make the audibles the way or maybe able to see the plays as well as they need to be. Like it kind of gives it a little bit of a pump and a little bit of fun and a little bit of realism to how it all goes down. But either way, they came out with the top 25 list, and a little bit surprising, Arkansas was actually in the top 25. Check it out. Fox College Football put this list up, but this is according to and factoring in historical stats such as home winning percentage, home game attendance, active home winning streaks, team prestige, and more. Now, again, this comes from Fox. I'm using this as kind of like, I should have made this clear. This is not connected with the college football video game, but I'm putting it together as kind of like, hey, this might get you a pretty good idea of where it's all at. But to see Arkansas at 23rd of the top 25 list, I was a little shocked by. Because it says winning percentage, home game attendance, active home winning streaks, team prestige. I mean, I could be wrong, folks, but like those four things right there, I don't feel like Arkansas has right now. Maybe at some point in time. But the home winning percentage, I mean, at least last year, I know it's like talking about in general, but you're like last year, geez, their worst performances were at home. That made no sense. So you have that. Then you throw in, again, home game attendance, which Arkansas is pretty well attended, but it's not like, I mean, I guess the biggest crowd you had was Texas a couple of years ago. I don't think he can get to 80,000, like between 75 to 78,000 maybe. It's not bad. Active home winning streaks. Arkansas's got, goose egg on that. And team prestige, I don't know. I am not someone who's going to complain about this, but I just thought it was interesting to see that. They have Texas A&M at number 1, which I don't know about all that. I don't think Texas A&M Kyle Field's a crazy place to play, but I wouldn't put it at number 1. Alabama, okay. LSU, okay. Ohio State, okay. And then Georgia at number 5. So again, we're talking about minor things here, but like I started looking at it and just going through the SEC teams and looking at where Arkansas ranked among SEC teams. So you got A&M, Bama, LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, we're counting them, Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, South Carolina, Texas, Arkansas. So you are 11th out of 16 teams in the SEC when it comes to your home field or toughest place to play, which is, again, kind of funny to me because, like, it's kind of like recruiting rankings, I feel like. It's like the same thing. It's like, oh, you're top 25, great, but you're actually 11th in your conference. All right. So the teams that Arkansas is above, Mississippi State's at 25. So you're talking about like 12 of the 16 SEC teams are in the top 25. Ones that aren't, at least here on this top 25 list, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Ole Miss. So people started debating about this and all of that. Here's my thing. I know that there are constant debates of who's the toughest place to play. And no one's ever going to be satisfied. No one's ever going to feel good about it because it's always constantly going to be a debate. Like, there's so many things that can happen and so many different factors that go into it. And I don't know if there's ever going to be a right answer. And it's also an ever-changing thing. I'm sure 30 years ago, Nebraska was probably the toughest place to play, but I wouldn't call it that anymore, or at least not to that level. And, looking at the rest of this list, like seeing places like Iowa. Like, I wouldn't have thought that they'd be top 25, but listen, they put a factor into it. But I am not naive enough or even fanboy enough, whatever you want to call it, to sit here and say that, oh, yeah, Arkansas for sure is one of the top atmospheres in college football. Now, when it's rocking, it's rocking. But every place is like that. I mean, I actually posted a video the other day on my Twitter about the intro and the opening of the 2010 Arkansas-Alabama football game on CBS. And just because it was like, man, I missed the music and the cool intro and all of that. But I remember going into that game and just feeling something different that I have never felt before. Like, Arkansas had some successful seasons in my lifetime leading up to that point. On occasion, a successful home game. But that was also during the time where they didn't play LSU in Fayetteville. So we never got to see that game ever be played in Razorback Stadium. And Alabama was just new to getting good under Nick Saban. On occasion, you had an Auburn. And then on an occasion, maybe some other random team that would be pretty good that you end up playing that year, like a Georgia or a Tennessee, like that random rotating East opponent. But still, you just never had those marquee games, or the ones, at least the ones you could find consistently, that were that good. And since LSU was always in Little Rock, Fayetteville never had that type of atmosphere. There were some good ones. I remember in 2001, the Tennessee game, or 2004, the Texas game. Like, I'm not saying that there was never a moment like that, but going into the game when you're number 10 and they're number 1 and they're the defending champs, and you're just coming off of a big, crazy win over Georgia on the road, and you got a team that you feel is good enough to win it all. I remember that feeling I had going into that game. And I was a student at the U of A. And the energy, man. Like, I still get chills talking about it. It was an energy I hadn't felt. Because it was one thing, like, I remember when Arkansas opened up the season against USC in Fayetteville in 2006. They got smoked. Like, yeah, that was a lot of buildup and lead up, but you were coming off of a losing season and you hadn't even played yet. You don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know how good you're going to be. This is something that's like, no, you knew how good you were. You know how great you were. You proved it on the field already. And you're going up against the defending champs and you're the number 10 team in the country. So it was just a different energy. And the weather was good. It was a little overcast, but the weather was warm. It's a 2:30 game. CBS, like just all the emotions and all of the buildup was there. Students were camping out for it on the sidewalk. Just electric. And all of that was amazing. But when you coupled that with Arkansas winning the toss, and right, we want the ball. And Petrino had said, basically, F it, we're doing it live. And has a beautiful play in the first play of the game, going right there to Jarius right across the middle, goes down the sidelines for, I think it was like a 30-yard gain. Then the very next play, the Ronnie Wingo wheel route, still in fame, and just all the famous lines and all that people that gets brought up with that. Seeing him go on that wheel route, hit him wide open, runs into the end zone. Second play of the game, 50 seconds, you're up 7-0. The energy that I had, that everybody had in that stadium, was something that just can't be described. Because everything had been building up, and you just needed something to help it explode. And when that happened, it exploded. It was so loud. It was so... Greg McElroy still to this day says it was the loudest stadium he's ever played in. And it was that game. And I'm saying all that because it's like Arkansas is capable of having an electric atmosphere, a loud atmosphere. Because there's been other people that have said too, not only Greg McElroy, but Jalen Hurts said the loudest stadium he ever played in was Arkansas. Either the loudest or the craziest atmosphere, one of the two, but still, it goes hand in hand. Jalen Hurts said that. I remember, I'm pretty sure it was Chad Kelly, maybe said it too. There's other guys, but the point is like, it's there. It's there. Just have to have the team to go along with it. So to see Arkansas 23rd on the toughest places to play in college football, a little surprised, to be honest. A little surprised. Because if you think about the greatest atmospheres just over the past 10 years in Razorback Stadium, there's been a few, but there hasn't been many. I think, of course, the Texas game of 2021, that was as good as you could ask. It was awesome. That one was great. I think back to, I think that it was at the 2016 game against Ole Miss. That was a great atmosphere. I think the atmosphere against Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel was great in 2013, which I guess it's not even technically 10 years. We'll call it technically 10 years. There's been some games here and there, but just not as many as there should have been. Not as many as there should have been. The atmosphere against Bama in 2014 was great. Even the LSU one where everyone rushed the field, that was great, but it's just not as many. But the point is that Arkansas is absolutely 100% capable of being that great atmosphere. And you know what? Football is really the only one that's not even in the contention. I've said it before. Bud Walton Arena. Bud Walton, the basketball palace of mid-America. There is no place like that when it comes to atmosphere. I'm not saying that if you bring up Fog Allen Fieldhouse or Cameron Indoor that, no, you're wrong, Bud Walton's better. No, you got an argument, but you can't convince me that Bud Walton is not one of the top 5 craziest, loudest atmospheres in college basketball. Just can't do it. Like, the amount of people that have to plug their ears as players because of how loud it is. And I've talked to Alyssa Lang of the SEC Network. She says that it's still the loudest arena she's ever been in for that Auburn game just a couple of years ago. I still think when John Calipari, ironically enough, got ejected from that game in 2020, that moment was the loudest moment I've ever heard in Bud Walton. I mean, that was anger. Like, that wasn't just noise. That was hatred, anger, emotions, collectively. I think Kyle Tucker, actually of Kentucky, who covers Kentucky sports, said it best. I think he said it was like, Bud Walton causes physical assault against eardrums. Like, it's that. It's my favorite place, man. I love Bud Walton Arena. And I love it when it's crazy loud. Even Baum Walker, I mean, for crying out loud. You're hard to find many atmospheres and many stadiums as nice as that in college baseball. Bogle's great for softball. The track facility is second to none. So, I mean, like, you got, like, the fans are there. The support's there. The energy's there. It's just a matter of having the program that can support it. And unfortunately for Arkansas football, it hasn't been that way. But, man, y'all remember when Darren McFadden was in town. Y'all remember when Matt Jones was in town. Y'all remember when Ryan Mount and Bobby Petrino were in town. You remember some of those atmospheres. You remember some of those games. You remember some of those loud moments. I don't care what anybody says. That Texas game, folks, out in 2021, that wasn't just a one-off. If Arkansas has that type of game, like, say, if even this year, I guarantee you, folks, this year, say that Tennessee game is the first home game in the SEC. Say if Arkansas is going into that one, I think they played 5 games by that point, but say if they're going into that game 4-1 or 5-0 even. But if they're like good and they're looking good and the promise and the optimism's there, that's going to be an atmosphere like no other. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. So they're capable of it. They just got to do it. They just got to get to that point. I don't know if it'll happen. I hope it happens soon, but they just got to find a way to make it work. Number 23 ain't bad, though. I'll take number 23. Folks, got to tell you, our friends over at Superior Contracting and Development, they are licensed residential commercial contractors specializing in all aspects of home building and remodeling. They handle everything from fencing to drainage to additions and remodeling of your existing structure, all the way to land development and ground-up construction. So call them today for all of your interior and exterior construction remodeling needs. They can help you out. It's that time of year. You want to do some things to your house. You want to add some things on. You want to take some things away. There's only one place to do it with. It's Superior Contracting and Development. You can call them today at 501-453-3053. That's 501-453-3053. You can also check out their new website at superiorcontractingar.com. No matter what it is, when it comes to your interior and exterior construction and remodeling needs, do it with Superior Contracting and Development right here in Arkansas.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports